All right, everyone. I am being joined by Noelle Wiggins. Noelle, you work for Reach, which is an organization that works with homeless people. Tell me a little bit more about Reach.
Absolutely. Reach was started 3 years ago by a man named Rich, who just saw a need in Seattle for homeless people to be fed. And so he, by himself, for a couple of years, would just take out as much food as he could carry and bring it to them. But in those 3 years, as I'm sure you're familiar with, Anne Marie, the problem in Seattle has just kind of blown up, and it's grown to such an extent that the resources that were previously taking care of them couldn't anymore. And so Reach really expanded about a year and a half ago to every single Saturday morning, consistently serving breakfast to the homeless, being there for them consistently, providing hope, sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ with them, just being present, building those relationships.
And so, how has the coronavirus made it more challenging for you to help this very vulnerable segment of our population?
It's as though in the midst of the coronavirus, the organizations and the government institutions and even the private institutions like ourselves that were helping them have completely disappeared. And we noticed it really for the first time about 3 weeks ago when we went out on a Saturday morning and we had 80 people over the course of like 20 minutes or 30 minutes. And that was a scale and volume we weren't used to seeing. And I began to hear stories from them that shelter capacity had been cut in half so that they could keep everybody 6 feet apart, which meant that people who had previously been living in shelters now are back on the streets again, thrown out there with really no clothing, no sleeping bags, and they had no forewarning that this was going to happen. What we're also seeing is that the organizations like ours that used to go out and feed the homeless consistently and frequently have just stepped back. And part of that is very legitimate. They want to protect their volunteers. And they also just don't have the funding and the resources right now. I mean, Costco in Seattle has like 4 or 5 hour wait times, right? Just to get in.
Wow.
And so there's this huge resource crunch there that we're experiencing. But I think the saddest part of it was when we went out a couple nights ago and our team brought 70 sandwich bags. They just thought they'd do like, kind of a quick run. And within one block, all 70 sandwiches were gone. And one of the gentlemen was telling Rich, our president of the organization, that UGM, which is sort of the largest shelter organization in the area, only had rice and lettuce left to feed them, and they were starving.
Wow.
And I've never seen it this bad before. And resources are hard to come by right now. Even just getting enough food, getting enough bread to make sandwiches with is hard. Getting people to go out on the streets is hard, but we can't just forget our brothers and sisters who are living on the streets, our neighbors right now in this time of crisis. We have to step up and help them too.
So, what have you guys been doing? Because you've had to sort of like switch things up a little bit.
Big time. There's huge need right now. And so just going out every Saturday and a couple times a week isn't working anymore, right? So we're going out every morning and every evening to bring as much food and just love to these people as we possibly can. We started 2 weeks ago a fundraiser. In sort of a moment of desperation, I was like, I'm just going to put this on Facebook and see if anybody's willing to help. We raised $11,000 in 2 weeks. That's more than this organization has ever raised in a whole year, much less 2 weeks. So people care, and the American people want to know what's going on and how they can help. But one of the problems, like I said, is sort of this resource constraint. One of those being we can't get the money from Facebook for another like 2.5 weeks. And I've been chatting with them a little bit, going, hey, people are dying. People are in a bad spot. We kind of need this right now. And then
Is that just sort of part of Facebook's fundraising system that they hang on to the money for a little bit?
They do. And it's a legitimate thing to do to make sure that if people want refunds, they can get their refunds and, vet out an organization. And that's all legitimate. And at the same time, we're living in a very different world right now than we previously have before. Mm-hmm. And so this is a moment of we need everything we can get. But it's been awesome to watch the community step up. Just a few days ago, we asked people in our community in Seattle, hey, could you and your families just pack up as many brown lunch bags as you can? Just with sandwiches, whatever you have to spare right now, would you do that? And we had 2 truckfuls come in that allowed us to feed hundreds of people. And that's amazing. People do care. They want to take care of their neighbors. And they're just sort of in this point of, I don't necessarily know how to do that in a safe way for me and for my family. And so we're trying to provide that and say, hey, if you want to bring lunch bags, that's amazing. If you want to help us pack up lunch bags, that's amazing. If you want to give, that's amazing. If you want to go to Facebook on our behalf and ask for the money, that's amazing. There's so much you can do right now.
All right. So I'm going to put a link to your fundraising page on my page, but you heard it from Noelle that there are organizations in your own community that you can reach out to and help. And don't forget sort of the most vulnerable people in our neighborhoods that cannot shelter in place because there's no place for them to go. Noelle, thank you so much.
Thank you, Anne Marie.